Hello, good afternoon. Oh, wait. Hold on. I'll be back in a second. I don't like using my headset for this.
Okay. Hold on just a second. Now I gotta go check and see if it works. I am actually wearing a top. I like uh it's a what do you call those, tube tops, right? Hold on. Give me just a second. I'm sorry. I just need to make sure you can hear me because every time I turn my headset off in the middle of this isn't a reading, in the middle of a video. You can't hear me. Okay, you can hear me. Okay. All right. So let's tie all this together because when we get into talking about like pick me energy and all that stuff, a lot of the times, one of the things that's said is that women that are doing those lengthy texts and all that stuff, they have some respect for yourself. Have some respect. You little pick me. Have some respect, right? What did we just discuss? We just discussed that commonly is what is considered emotional flooding. And it's more common amongst people who have anxious attachment styles. Okay. It's more common amongst them, but it's not from a lack of respect for themselves. So when we see it from this perspective of, and the thing is, there's always going to be like, on one hand, it's this, and on the other hand, it's this, right? Because on one hand, you do have the requirement to control yourself, to work on yourself, to do things that facilitate healthy behavior. Okay, so if you have a anxious attachment style, disorganized, preoccupied attachment style, you working on making sure you're not emotionally flooding someone is important. Okay, but on the other hand, most times when that's happening, it's coming from an actual real or perceive, well, it can be perceived. You can be, for those who are really bad, and most of the time the only people that are really bad, I noticed, are men, like, the nice men, people like Corey. You know what I'm saying? We never discussed ever dating or anything like that, and for some reason he just was super triggered by the fact that I was seeing someone. When he asked for a service, he didn't ask to go on a date with me. He didn't ask for any of that. He asked for me to do his hair. So for him to go into the anxious attachment style, oh, nobody's ever gonna let me, blah, 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 doing that shit, that that was unhealthy. It wasn't a mind game by any means, but his behavior, that's where he needed to work on himself, versus a woman who is dealing with a man who is being distant, withholding affection, things like that. And more so, because not every single avoidant is being abusive, okay, or emotionally abusive or anything like that. Okay, this is where you gotta use your discernment to determine who's being malicious with their energy and who's not. And more commonly, that emotional flooding thing, when I see women emotionally flooding, a lot of the times they are really dealing with someone who is uh, either unintentionally or intentionally being neglectful, playing mind games, because you know what? Let me just put it like this: avoidant attachment. That when I watch videos about avoidant attachment, a lot of the times they do acknowledge that avoidant attached people play games. They really do play games. They play mind games. They have like a set of games that they play to try to get you to prove that you're good enough, right? And so even if it's not malicious, it still has that same um effect that emotional abuse would have. Not all the time. I'm telling you, it's not all the time, right? So I am saying all of this because I feel like the last couple of days, the last couple of videos I've done, excuse me, maybe like the last 4, have really been trying to make a case for pick-me's. I'm not a pick-me. Though I have displayed some of this behavior, I'm definitely not a pick-me, because if I was a pick-me, I'd be picked already. And not really. Most of the time, pick-me's aren't picked because they are looked at as having no respect for themselves. But my case for the pick-me's is a lot of the pick-me's either have like anxious attachments, are dealing with men that are not emotionally supportive, and therefore they find themselves in the mind games and they start emotionally flooding, which is a psychological or like a physiological response. It's not about a lack of respect, it's about managing their triggers. So these women actually do have respect for themselves most times. They just don't have a handle or a grasp on, and none of you do really. Well, some of you do. I'm sorry. I always say none of you, but I don't mean that. I'm speaking on a broader scale of like society as a whole. Doesn't really recognize that the mind games of men actually devalue women. So most women, like there's a saying, you know, the uh, uh, I might not say it right. I might butcher this, but essentially, like a good man is the average woman. You know what I'm saying? The average woman is good. You know, there's going to be stragglers, there's going to be women that aren't good and do have some evil tendencies, right? But women are conditioned to be good, to be compassionate, to be, you know, thinking of others, to be caregivers, to be motherly, you know, nurturing. So like the average male isn't that, right? So we put a bad name on pick-me's, you know what I'm saying? Saying they have no respect for themselves, when a lot of the times it's about managing triggers, not recognizing that the games of avoidant men, the games of men in general, it produces that. So then you continue to project on women that they're crazy, that they play games, that they're pick-me's. And so we're giving women who are experiencing this emotional flooding, a bad name, like a whole group of them, right? And then on top of that, the high value women, the women who are actually playing the game, because again, we've been over this, we've already talked about this, but we're tying it all together, okay? Those women are just indulging in the game. If I'm not indulging in the game and I'm not playing the mind games with you, and I'm not, you know, uh, the only reason that they're succeeding and they're not emotionally flooding is because they're actually participating in the game. They're playing the game. They're not calling first. They're not expressing their emotions. They're not. They're demanding. They're playing the game, so they're less likely to experience emotional flooding and chase a man, because it's not really chasing. Again, they're emotionally flooding. They're experiencing a response to not playing the game. That's the only difference between these two women, these two types of women, rather, because, and it's not for all women, okay? And I know women aren't really the ones that, oh, it's not all women, okay? Only men do that. Women know where to identify themselves, right? So you're giving a bad name to the women who aren't playing the game. That's how we're tying all of the videos that I've done in the last week together. Okay. Um, the women who chase, most of them are actually emotionally flooding, having a direct response to playing the mind games, okay? And they have now been given a label of pick me, when in fact, there's only two things that can happen here, okay? Either the high value women who play the game, let's play a love game. I'm gonna keep singing that shit. I've actually been playing on repeat lately. Um, the women who play the game, they've been given the term high value, while the women who are actually falling victim to the game and emotionally flooding and having an emotional response are being given a term called pick me's, or low value or low quality. Okay, when in fact, either you're all pick me's, okay, you all have to be pick me's because you're just the other side of the coin, the other side of the spectrum. Okay, you're all on the same spectrum here of pick me, okay? Or you're all just victims, you know. Those are the two options, because you wouldn't have to play the game, you know, if you weren't being victimized by men or being taken advantage of by men. See, the only reason you're playing the game is because you don't want to get taken advantage of, but even in participating and playing the game, you are still being taken advantage of. So all the work that I just did these last hold on, let's go look. One, two, three. I did three videos. Okay, I did 3 videos talking about this whole pick me versus high value situation. Okay, the last video that I did was talking about emotional flooding, and because the music, you know, the music has messages in it. All right, playing mind games when you saying things. We both doing the same thing, right? He misinterpreted her emotional response to the mind games that he was playing. And then because he thought she was playing mind games, you know, he is now projecting that onto her because she's responding, right? This is also what um a little more light here. Shade what? So this whole dynamic right here creates a divide between the women that is not necessary, because you're just the same on a different side. No more of that pick me nonsense. That's what I'm hoping for, because they've made a now they've made a competition of it. Who's going to succumb to the mind games and who's going to play them? All right? So that's all. We're just tying everything that I did together, that I did yesterday, well, actually, I didn't do anything yesterday. I was kind of busy. It was a very busy day. But I hope what I just said makes sense. Okay? It's not really that some of these women it does, okay. And before somebody tries to do this, there are women out there that do not have respect for themselves. Okay? There are women out there that are doing this and they do have respect for themselves. I am not saying that every single woman that's on this side of the spectrum has no respect for themselves. And I'm not saying everyone on the other side of the spectrum has an incredible amount of respect for themselves. You know, that is a personal thing. But just by watching their behavior doesn't mean that you can automatically determine that. Okay? Because if someone's emotionally flooding, it can very well look like chasing. Okay? And now you're calling that person a pick me. And in fact, that person is in distress, okay? Because they haven't caught on to all the games yet. They don't know. That's the beauty of the internet is helping people to know, right? But in the same vein, that does not mean because you decided to play the mind games with men that you are any less of a pick me or that you have any more respect than someone on that other side of the spectrum. Okay? That's all I have to say. Hopefully that ties everything in and you're getting what I'm saying and you're following. If not, well, sorry for your comprehension skills.